Our media world is fracturing beyond all repair. It's worse than I've ever seen. There was always some semblance of an overlap in the disparate realities, but now it's gotten so insane. I don't know what to expect. Just people living in different worlds. I tell you this. People who believe Donald Trump won in a massive landslide. I'm seeing people tweet Trump won and everyone will find out. Perhaps that doesn't seem to be the case based on what all the other media outlets are saying. And there's my bias. Yeah, I absolutely am more willing to trust the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, the Wall Street Journal than Trump supporting, like Trump outlets. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe these outlets are wrong. I will tell you this. As much as I'm more willing to trust them, I call them out all the time. While they are now projecting that Joe Biden won, and that's sure they can project whatever they want, I don't think they should be calling him president-elect. That's the weirdest thing about all this. The fact that Trump is disputing this, Trump is in court, you can make fun of him all you want, but he's not conceding, so the race isn't over. So Joe Biden is not president-elect until the results are certain, until the Electoral College votes on the 14th. And then if they pick Joe Biden, we'll see what happens on the 20th. I think it's very likely going to be him, but it's weird the media plays these games. But now the fracture is getting even crazier. Check this out. Sean Davis, I believe Sean's of the Federalist. Yep, co-founder of the Federalist, says, the New York Times is attacking Real Clear Politics for saying Pennsylvania, where Joe Biden leads by just 1%, is too close to call. Meanwhile, the New York Times is refusing to call 3 separate House races in New York where the GOP is ahead by double digits. It took the New York Times more than a week to call the state of Alaska for Trump and GOP Senator Dan Sullivan. Both won by double digits, and the outcomes of both races were never in doubt. And then there's North Carolina, where both Trump and GOP Senator Thom Tillis have larger leads in both absolute and percentage terms than Biden has in Pennsylvania. The New York Times didn't call either race until last week. What's really going on here is the New York Times is mad at Real Clear Politics for not taking a right turn, not for taking a right turn, but for taking the correct turn. Take a look at the New York Times final election polls, for example, and compare them to the actual election results. Biden up 3 in Florida, Biden up 6 in Pennsylvania, Biden up 11 in Wisconsin. The New York Times didn't just shart the bed at calling states or polling races. Check out NYT's forecast of the U.S. House 3 days after the election, and then compare to the actual results. Meanwhile, the reporter who wrote the New York Times' hit piece on Real Clear Politics is the same reporter who claimed the Bible verse, the wages of sin and death, was a secret 2,000-year-old call for Christians to... I'm not even going to read that. That's just ridiculous. Anyway, the point is, the New York Times writes, a popular political site made a sharp right turn. What steered it? I love this about news media. Perhaps the New York Times, which is falling into a state of entropic disrepair, is continuing its entropic disrepair, is actually the one that's veering so far left, they've driven off the cliff, and now they're like, as they're falling off the cliff, they're going, Real Clear Politics is going so far right. That's what's happening. And it's happening to a lot of outlets. Real Clear Politics, it's crazy how they're kind of middle of the road, boring, bland, just like regular old journalism. And they aggregate polls, but they're the ones who have gone far right. Now, maybe you're not a big fan of Real Clear Politics, or you don't really know all that much, but I tell you this right now. There are outlets that are right. It's not about left or right wing, though. It's about realities. It's about truth. I turned on Newsmax for the first time a couple days ago, and I got to tell you, they actually were fairly spot on in their analysis, and it was much better than Fox News. I'll give you an example. I turn on Fox, and you get, no, we'll throw it to Chris Evans, Captain America. He put up this tweet where he was like giggling like Tweedledum. I got to say, man, I'm sorry, dude. You don't do any research. You don't Google search stuff and you post this stuff. You look dumb. It was John Roberts on Fox News saying the Trump campaign has said that they will not give up until all legal votes are. He said the Trump campaign has said not all legal votes have been counted and not all legal votes have been excluded. Where they run into problems is evidence. And then Chris Evans is like, and he posted on Twitter. Well, he said evidence of fraud. Here's the thing. Trump isn't suing in many of these instances over fraud. He's suing over process, impropriety, and calling for an injunction in many of these states from the certification process. That's Fox News. They say there's no evidence of fraud. there is evidence of fraud. We have sworn affidavits and whistleblowers, and we have the Voter Integrity Fund that's actually found at least one person, to be fair, who appeared on Fox saying someone cast a ballot in his name in Arizona and he didn't live there. So that did happen. But for the most part, you see all this on Fox News and the actual news reporters, not the pundits, where they're saying things like no evidence of widespread voter fraud. My favorite is that we just saw from NBC News. They said no sign of substantial voter fraud that would have changed the outcome in the election. What they're saying is there's fraud. Because I'll ask you this question. NBC, did you find fraud? Yes or no? We did not find substantial fraud that would have changed the outcome of it. No, that's not what I'm asking. Did you find fraud? You see, if they didn't find any fraud, they'd say we found no fraud whatsoever. No, they always qualify it. Here's the problem. If you uncover evidence of fraud, shouldn't you then investigate and see if it's systemic or systematic? Yes, they're not. I'll put it this way. Imagine you're sitting like you're on a suburban city street, suburban block, a bunch of houses, and you see big billowing smoke coming out of a building, and you're like, whoa. So you call 911 and you say, I see a bunch of crazy dark smoke coming out of a building. And they go, oh, yeah, well, I mean, do you see evidence of widespread fire? And I'm like, no, but I see evidence of fire. Well, it's not widespread fire, though, is it? What do you want me to do? Go inside the burning building? Well, if you don't have widespread fire, because maybe it's just a little fire, maybe it's just a stovetop, right? Look, sir, fires happen. It's not that big of a deal. We're not going to investigate. No, you see smoke, the fire department comes out. Guess what? Sometimes it was just someone burning a roast. Okay, not big billowing fire. Smoke alarm goes off. Hey, I hear a smoke alarm going off. Well, that's not widespread evidence. That's the game they're playing. It is not incumbent upon Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, or any of these individuals to go and do a full-scale FBI-level investigation going into all of these. Do an audit, do a recount, do an investigation. They're not doing it. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent on voting again. The point is, Fox News just won't say it. They won't say it. I turned on Newsmax and I was impressed. I got to admit, they're biased heavily for the right, but they weren't coming out with obviously false statements. Therein lies I guess what I would say is what worries me. It's good if people have the opportunity to hear different ideas. It's bad when the news media only tells you the same thing over and over again. But now we're entering this world with social media and the internet where people can just choose to live in whichever reality they want. And they do. And a lot of this is fake reality. Newsmax seems to do a pretty good job. And these mainstream news outlets are seemingly doing a worse and worse job. What do we do? What happens when you have people marching down the street who believe that Donald Trump, first, his 4 years were all jammed up by these lunatics who were the Russiagate nonsense, and now they believe that the election was stolen and there is evidence of fraud. The government just needs to do an investigation into it. I wonder why it is that, the FBI didn't do an investigation into, or the DOJ, into like the claim the woman had from Nevada where she said she watched people bringing in ballots. Maybe it was a dead end. What about all these people, the thousands upon thousands that have been found to have changed their addresses but are reported as having voted at their previous address? Is the FBI going to investigate these things? Time's running out. Why not? I don't know. At any rate, getting me off on voting again. The point is, talking about voting. The point is that you've got a media that is saying nothing is happening. Joe Biden has won. And that's just not true. But what happens then is that these people are told over and over again, the Trump supporters who have the evidence and are calling for the investigations, they say they're the fascists and the Nazis. And so then these lunatic lefties show up and start beating random old people. They're enforcing the authoritarian elite's will. Not the Democrats, but the authoritarian elites. And that's what we're going to get when the New York Times does this stuff. Political side made a sharp right turn. What? They say Real Clear Politics has been catering to campaign obsessives since 2000. It pitches itself as a trusted go-to source for unbiased polling. The Trump era changed its tone and funding sources. What are we supposed to do? Who are we supposed to listen to? I'm sick and tired of the fake news. And I tell you, man, it's been worse than ever. I can't trust any of these outlets because their lies are so blatant. President-elect Joe Biden is incorrect. There's no unity in that statement. There's not been a certification nationally, and there's not been an electoral vote. So the swing states are being certified. Projecting is fine. But you call someone president-elect when everyone's conceded and the race is pretty much clear. We're not there. The media cares not for unity, but they are desperately propagandizing to make it seem like Donald Trump has no chance. Perhaps he doesn't. But even if Trump doesn't, do you think the likes of Newsmax and Breitbart and The Federalist and Real Clear Politics are going to stop calling it like they see it and saying what they think is true? No. That means we're seeing now parallel news tracks, substantial ones. With Fox News, they still followed the mainstream narrative for the most part. Now it's Newsmax and people are leaving Fox News. I warned about this years ago, parallel economies and parallel realities. It's no longer one screen with two movies on it. You see, that's what it used to be. We'd all read the news and we'd see something different. Now it's straight up two different screens. And on it, they're both pointing the finger saying the other guy's the bad guy. I think it ends badly. I'll leave it there. Let's talk about voter fraud, though. I got a big update. Next segment coming up in just a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.